Resign, Governor Cuomo! Resign, Governor Cuomo! Hey, hey! Cuomo! Governor Cuomo's got to go! Hey, hey!
Cuomo!
Cuomo!
Resign!
Resign!
Now!
Now!
Okay, you're looking at footage of really heated protests happening in New York City outside Cuomo's office. Joining me now is former federal prosecutor Jim Trusty. Okay, Andrew Cuomo, growing calls he should resign. Dozens of lawmakers saying he needs to step down. What was your reaction when you saw the New York Times reporting that the Cuomo team censored and altered a state report last July to cover up and hide thousands of nursing home deaths because they were alarmed that the real numbers would make Cuomo look bad, and they went along because they feared for their jobs? What do you think of this story?
Yeah, I mean, look, that's a primary crisis in this two-front war he's fighting about how he handled the nursing home scandal, the scandalous treatment of vulnerable adults, and then the other front, which is the treatment of female underlings. And he's not handling the crisis very well on either topic. But I will tell you real quick, Liz, what strikes me about this information leaking out to the New York Times about how he was understating the figures, it's really the greatest strength of conspiracies that they rely on underlings and the greatest vulnerability. You know, he's using underlings to get the message across to help him politically. And that can work. That can insulate him from the wrongdoing. But once they start to turn on him, which is what we might be seeing, it's the greatest vulnerability. They're the people that can bring him down with firsthand information.
Yeah, you know, he said, who cares where they died? People died. If it's who cares, then he shouldn't care about releasing all of the texts and emails and phone calls, all the information that was exchanged about what happened with this report. He became an international celebrity. He was celebrated as a potential presidential contender. His book launched him, his self-valorizing book about his handling the pandemic. But what's interesting here, Jim, I want your reaction to this. Not only did they knock out a chart showing that would have shown the deaths were actually 50% higher than they reported, but they also knocked out the fact that his own order putting patients back in was an issue. They dialed down on that in the internal report. Your reaction?
Right. Well, this is the stuff of trouble with the feds. I'm not convinced that you're going to see substantive murder or reckless endangerment type charges against him in state court. But on the federal side, he was slow walking subpoena responses to the Eastern District of New York. And so the more of this kind of premeditated behavior of willfully obfuscating, the more he's in harm's way, or at least there's some risk of obstruction or false statement charges there. So again, keep your eye on Melissa DeRosa. If her lawyer announces that she's on Team Eastern District and not Team Cuomo, you're going to see a very panic-stricken governor.
That's an important point you just made, because Melissa DeRosa, the state aide who worked with Cuomo, worked on this July report too. She's the one who said, quote, "We froze. We didn't release the data because we feared Trump, and he was going to use it as, quote, political football in the DOJ probe into what went on." This is now getting bigger, Jim, because now the Republican Governors Association is saying New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy has the same problem with COVID deaths in nursing homes. In other words, a lot of states followed what Cuomo did, including putting patients back in and then knocking out the fact that, you know, nursing home patients were dying in hospitals. New Jersey didn't do that. Cuomo was looking at New Jersey's numbers and knocked out the hospital deaths in order to make himself look better. That's what the New York Times report said his team did. What do you think of this broadening to maybe capture other governors?
Well, again, really the key is going to be, are the governors that are caught up in this lying to federal investigators? I really think that's the most potential risk for Governor Cuomo, is orchestrating intentional lies towards the federal government when they are asking questions. It's not about the state house. You know, Albany might be very satisfied when you say, oh, the reason we lowballed it is because evil Trump was after us. But when you talk about federal prosecutors, they take their subpoenas very seriously. And I think that's the issue that may not be duplicated across these other states.
Got it. Jim Trusty, thanks for your insights there. Come back soon. We love hearing what you have to say.